Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. President Bola Tinubu is being away in China for the African Leaders Meeting in Beijing as they attend the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, the FOCAC Summit. We saw government officials, including ministers in the federal cabinet, the governors in some states of the federation, signing deals and holding sideline talks leading to some policy decisions and announcements on deals. Tonight, Nigeria buckle up for a tour of global diplomacy as we dig into President Tinubu's trip to China. On the trip, President Tinubu told his audience that he's a reformer and he's doing a lot to change the narrative on the ground in Nigeria, and he's doing on his own part what the Chinese leader did also to change the story of the Asian country. I'd like you to remind you what President Bola Tinubu said when he said he is a reformer.
The country is going through a very strong phase of reform. And this reform is taking a very bold and hard decision. You might be hearing from home now in the last few days about fuel prices. But can we help it? Can we develop? You use their good roads there. You see electricity being constant. You see water supply being constant and running. What is the critical path to get us there? If we cannot take hard, painful decisions to pave the way, now is to provide the leadership that is necessary, and I'm committed to that.
That is a portion of what President Bola Tinubu said in China. Of course, you do know that there is a possibility of about $50 billion US of China's money that will be committed within the next few years to the African continent. How much of that can come to Nigeria? The Nigeria debt to China is about in the region of $5 billion US. Well, with the deals inked from some infrastructure projects to cutting-edge technology partnerships, the possibilities for Nigeria are as vast as the Great Wall itself. But how much could these agreements help to boost our economy locally and help put Nigeria on the global stage in terms of productivity and pave the way for a futuristic Nigeria brimming with opportunities and innovation? Well, there's a whole lot to unpack, isn't it? But to get some insight on these issues and some professional Midas touch to these diplomatic issues, I'm being joined tonight by a foremost Nigerian political scientist and public affairs expert and a former Minister of External Affairs, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. It's indeed a great pleasure having you, Prof, join us tonight on the program.
Thank you very much, Shane.
Thank you so much.
Honored to be here.
I appreciate it, Prof. It does look like China is taking the shine of the big boys on the global stage in terms of diplomatic relations, especially as it concerns Africa and indeed Nigeria. What is the implication of a China-Africa summit, Nigeria being one of the biggest countries on the continent, and standing tall will mean that we need to also give ourselves a vantage position within that corridor. But then give us an understanding of what China is trying to do economically and diplomatically too.
Thank you for that question, and thank you for inviting me to be on your program. Now, there is a competition going on the global scene. And the competition is between, on one hand, the United States and China for economic and political dominance, for influence. Equally amongst the global north is Russia, which also, if you recall, is seeking to get back its status. But we will be making a mistake if we focus on the global north alone. In the, what I would now call the global middle, you have Japan, you have Turkey, you have India, who also are now fighting for status within the global medium. And then you have the global south. And in the global south, I think we should stop until we confirm our status there. We should stop focusing attention just on just Nigeria. You have South Africa, you have Brazil, you have Indonesia, and some such countries. So in a way, it's not a straightforward battle. It's a battle with so many fronts. And if Nigeria can get it right, then we can be certain of Nigerian status there. What has happened in the, what they call now the FOCAC, what I still prefer to call the Nigerian, the African-Chinese summit, is China positioning itself to confirm its own role in the competition for influence in Africa. Don't forget that we also have America-African Summit, we have Japan-African Summit, we have Turkey-African Summit, and one summit that fell below your radar last week while all nations were in Beijing was Indonesia-African Summit. So even Indonesia is making its own claim for status.
So
scholars are still trying to. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. So it's interesting, Prof, to know that our relationship with China, there are those who advise that we should tread carefully and cautiously. Now, if you look at it, Prof, Nigeria is the debt Nigeria owes the rest of the world. Actually, the 5 big countries Nigeria is owing: China, France, Germany, India. Nigeria is owing China about 84% of the entire debt, which is over the range of $5 billion US. Alone, China is owing Nigeria is owing China about over $4 billion US. And some of these loans, as of a few years ago, they have a payment plan up to over 20 years, with a moratorium of some of them concessional loans, some of them moratorium of almost 7 years. So there are those who will say for infrastructure development, good. But then should we be careful, or should we have a worry about this global political war and our indebtedness to China?
Of course, we should be careful. That was where I was going. We should be careful. But don't isolate the focus on China. There are also debts we owe the United States. There are also debts we owe even some of the medium power countries. What we need to do is to be careful about 2 things. One, we shouldn't default on that debt. A month before this African-Chinese summit, Nigerian sovereign goods were being impounded all around the world at the instigation of a Chinese company. So, China is not going to serve us anything on global butter. We have to be careful that we fulfill our own side of the bargain, not only with China, but with all the other countries that we may be doing deals with. It's a shame on our status, on our pride for our sovereign goods to be seized because we are defaulting from fulfilling our part of the agreements. And this leads me to the second factor. Nigeria, as a sovereign country, should keep an eye on the types and content of agreements being signed by what we call the sub-nationals. States are not entities in international global system. They are not. Nigeria is the sovereign entity. Therefore, it is Nigeria that will be held responsible if states default in fulfilling agreements signed. It's Nigeria that will be held responsible if governors come onto the scene and decide to cancel agreements signed by their predecessors. We should get out of that mental thinking of, the empress in Nigeria is not the president in Abuja. The empress in the political system in Nigeria are the governors, because there's nobody who controls them. They have the assemblies in their pocket. They have the judges in their pocket. And yet, internationally, it is Nigeria they get into problem. So those are the two factors I would like to draw attention to. One, no, in fact, there is a third one. Our own behavior, our own DNA. Do you know part of the problem we are starting to run into in terms of the infrastructure projects which the Chinese have got into is that Nigerians who are supposed to be collecting money for trips are pocketing the money. They bring their own POS. And if you go through the right system, the passengers, and get the tickets naturally, directly, when you get there, the conductor says, oh, there's something wrong with what you bought. You have to buy another ticket. And that one is going into its own pocket. How are we going to refund the loan on those infrastructural projects when we have corrupt Nigerians? We tend to focus on corruption at the very top. And yes, that is there. And we do need to do that. But please look at corruption amongst ordinary Nigerians. That to me is more worrisome than the corruption at the top. Of course, if the top is clean, maybe that cleanliness will trickle down to the ordinary Nigerians. But the problem with all these loans we are signing will be our ability to repay the loans when they are due. And that responsibility falls on all of us.
I mean, there are those who will say, he who you owe the most debt is your master. So in the scheme of things, Prof, it does look like China is our biggest master out of the 5 big countries. As of Q1 of 2023, China, we are owing China 4.34 billion. France, 593 million US dollars. Germany, 144 million US dollars. Japan, 62 million US dollars. India, 26 million US dollars. A total debt of 5.16 billion, according to the BMO. But that has increased, Prof, from that Q1 of last year up until now. But I'm bothered about something, Prof. The manner of debt or loan that we collect from China, what are we using it for? Are those loans capable of repaying themselves? Prof, these are some of the things that the president did when he was in China. First and foremost, himself and President Xi Jinping, they elevate China-Nigeria relationship and are tied to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And also, the president also sealed a deal at that summit with Elongi Green Energy Technology Limited on a renewable solar panel energy source for Nigeria. There was another deal that was signed by a Telge Assembly Electric Tricycle Company to promoting sustainable transportation in Nigeria. These are some of the deals. Lagos State Government signed a deal for a green rail line, also signed a deal to power some universities. Kaduna State also was there to sign deals. We saw Niger State Governor also signing a deal. Yes, these federative units are also acquiring their own debts. And you told us the implication that Nigeria as an entity is the collateral, is the one that has the liability. But, Prof, these deals from the surface value, how do you assess some of the deals that Nigeria got from China? Some of these deals signed.
As I said earlier, I will not be worried if we keep our side of the bargain. From the itemization you have done, these deals are going into infrastructural development. And economists will tell you that there's nothing wrong with that. Because with infrastructure, you have a repayment, even a domestic repayment plan. If you build an express road, be prepared to pay tolls on that road. It is from the tolls collected that you will refund the money you the money you owe, the money you spend on building that road. But look at, from what is happening now, Nigerians love smooth express roads, right? But they don't want to pay tolls. They want it free, a la carte. Economy doesn't work that way. Number two, you've got honesty. Honesty has to become part of our DNA. Not when the people you put there to collect the tolls divert the money collected into their pockets. You know, you've given us humongous figures about the people that we owe. But if you look at, I thought you would raise this issue, so I checked on my figures before I came on. Debt as per percentage of your GDP. And I noticed that the first 10 in Africa were not there in terms of the volume of the debt in relationship to the GDP. So, in a way, economists are right that we shouldn't develop a headache in terms of the volume of the debt that we owe. But it is the discipline that we need to be able to refund this money if and when due. That's number one. Number two, and the two are related. If we start to pump our crude back to the 2-point-something barrels per day that it was several years ago, and we don't put on this cap of shame that half a million barrels of crude is stolen under our very nose. And there's something we do. Why do we have a Navy? Why do we have an Air Force? So, honesty must become part of our DNA. And we've got to do this. Now, let me say this. The honesty also must be on the part of our partners. The oil stolen in Nigeria, it is not sold to us in Nigeria. It is sold in Amsterdam port and other ports where they discharge this crude crude has a DNA. They can tell you exactly where this crude is coming from. And at the price they are being offered, they know this is stolen crude. Why are they not helping us? Of course, they are not helping us because they will say, your people are involved. You are collaborators in this.
How can you be making this kind of argument?
But if we can stop the stealing of the crude and get us back to 2-point-something barrels, we don't even need to go and borrow money from anywhere for some of our projects. Now, there is no nation in the world, and that includes the United States, that has not signed all kinds of agreements with China. Because again, I checked that people owing China. And I was surprised that even some of the countries in the global north are also owing, or not owing, but they have economic agreements that involve debts to China, but they are fulfilling their part of the bargain. And until we have that economic power that we can negotiate as a matter of strength, the people we are borrowing the money from are going to be exercising influence on us. And that bothers me. That bothers me a lot.
Advising President Tinubu, for example, that Nigeria should be a part of the BRICS group. South Africa joined in 2010, and there are those who say Nigeria belongs to that group. We have Brazil, we have India, we have Russia, China, and South Africa was the latest country to join that. And there are those who will say it's posing a big threat to some of the European big boys. And what BRICS has also posed is also the pressure that it poses on the dollar should a BRICS currency emerge. Would you think, or should Nigeria be thinking of joining the BRICS nations?
Nigeria should have been a member of BRICS at the very beginning. It gets to a situation in international politics where you don't want to put yourself as a supplicant. I remember having a discussion with a sitting president in Nigeria when I discussed this issue with him. And his idea is we will never beg to become a member of BRICS. It is demeaning. And I asked him, have you asked the people you took over from why Nigeria was not a member of BRICS at the beginning? He didn't give me an answer. Now, knowing the person who was president of Nigeria at the time when BRICS was formed, there has always been this attitude on his part that if a project is not his own, then he's not interested. Nigeria is not interested. And that may have been why they turned to South Africa. Originally, South Africa was not. South Africa was later invited in to become a member of BRICS. The Princeton professor who proposed BRICS, when he now saw how limited in scope it was, also now proposed another grouping which would then involve Argentina, Indonesia, Nigeria, but that project again never took off. Why? I don't know. There are some questions that you pose to us that you should be posing to the people who were presidents and who were foreign ministers as of that time, because they will have the facts as to why we were not invited, or if we were invited, we turned down the invitation to be an original founding member of BRICS. And when that fell apart, how about the other one? Now, the reason why with the second batch of countries who were now invited to join BRICS is because there is, and you better believe me, there is this negative competition between South Africa and Nigeria. And it is not, that one is not the fault of Nigeria. In spite of all the things we did for South Africa is determined to derail Nigeria wherever she could. You know the details. I don't need on this program to spell out the details of what South Africa had done in order to derail Nigeria. Where this whole thing is going, of course, is who will occupy one of the African seats, permanent seats, in the Security Council of the United Nations. The one being allocated to Africa south of the Sahara is now being fought over by South Africa and Nigeria. And unfortunately, with Nigeria being out of BRICS, BRICS members are going to automatically support South Africa. And that's what South Africa is aiming this whole competition about. I don't think we will go into BRICS. I think we should turn around and first of all build a foundation, a solid foundation of economic development. Let us become an economic giant in Africa. Please stop saying, oh, our population, our this, our that. What? I mean, we are aiming for 5,000 watts of energy. What is South Africa in terms of economic development is an industrial power. Nigeria is not.
Prof.
So when we start to talk about Nigeria being an economic giant, it is not just by selling crude.
Prof.
It's by getting all our refineries working, and it is the refined products we will be selling.
Prof, I mean, you probably had even answered the question I would have said should be your parting words for us tonight on the program. Because if you look at the BRICS nations, they have overtaken the G7 countries in terms of the share of GDP on the global economy. But what would you be saying to the leaders of this country as of today, led by President Tinubu, how Nigeria can stamp its own fate to become a giant within the global space? What would you be saying if you can give us your parting word just in about 30 seconds?
Yes, well, it will be, and this is Economics 101, it will be turn Nigeria into an industrialized country. Stop exporting everything crude, whether it's yam, whether it's cocoa, whether it's rubber, whether it's... Stop exporting them crude. Add value to them within the country before you then export them. That way you'll be building an industrial base. You must build an industrial base. Nigeria must be turned into an industrialized country. That is when nobody will be able to push you around. And you then don't have to go and beg to be part of any organization.
Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, a most renowned Nigerian diplomat, political scientist, and public affairs expert, and a former external affairs minister. It's always a pleasure having you speak to us. The level of knowledge and the depth is always amazing. Thank you so much indeed, Prof, for coming on the program tonight.
Thank you, Sheung.
I'm indeed
Thank
grateful
you.
for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Senator Victor Ume is a senator representing Anambra State in the Senate. He joins us live from Awka, the Anambra State capital. Thank you so much, distinguished, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening. Yes.
Let me ask you, how are you senators faring? Of course, you are probably paying less on fuel because you are not in Abuja for work. You are on recess. Those who will be asking, what are you and your colleagues doing in respect of the hike in the price and some of the issues related to the hardship that Nigerians are facing?
Well, Shane, I don't think it's a matter of where you are. Everywhere you're in Nigeria, you are feeling the pangs of the crisis we have for PMS and allied products. I'm in Anambra State for some time now, and it has been very excruciating. Today, I bought petrol, 1,250 naira a liter, and it's been like that for some time. So in Abuja, I hear from my children that it's the same thing. If you see petrol, it's very difficult to buy. The prices are quite high everywhere. So it's a national problem. It's not a question of whether you're in Abuja or at home or wherever. So it's a national crisis that we have right now.
There are those who will say reverse that policy. And when we imagine, what are your thoughts on that policy and the way to go? The NLC is speaking, the TUC has spoken, the NBA has spoken, some minority caucus in the House of Reps have spoken about this matter. What is your take? How do you think that the government should handle these things? It's impacting on the bottom line, the average living of every Nigerian.
Well, the cost of living is very biting now for every Nigerian, both the middle class, even those who pride themselves as the top class in the society, they are feeling the pinch. I think our problems have been as a result of people who have failed to do what they ought to do over time. The situation we find ourselves today is not strange to a lot of people, including myself, because what we are experiencing today is something that has been projected to happen. But those who are in a position to take the appropriate actions to save this country, for selfish reasons, refuse to do the right thing. There was no way anybody would have been expecting that we won't run into this PMS and allied products crisis in Nigeria when our refineries have been shut for a lot of years now. We don't refine these products, and we relied solely on the importation of these products. There is no way you can regulate or control the prices of things you don't produce. When last year, Mr. President removed the oil subsidy finally on the 29th of May, some of us were happy that the sector where people have been sucking Nigeria dry, that regime would have come to an end. But it came without any plan to cushion the effect it will have on Nigerians. Because if you don't produce or refine these products locally, you continue to run into the problems of high cost of these products. When the subsidy was removed last year, a little while, the PMS pump price went to 637 naira. I granted interviews then and said that this is just the beginning, because it's just people celebrating what they didn't know they were getting into. So long as we do not get our refineries to work, there is no way we won't get to where we are today. Today is 1,200 and something. In some places, 1,004 a liter. And we have not done anything to even change it, the situation. As far back as 2018, when I was in the 8th Senate, during the request for approval for promissory notes to pay oil subsidy debts, running into hundreds of billions of naira. I did say, and it's on record, that if Nigeria does not begin from 2018 to start to do something about our refineries, either we'll start a new refinery or we get the existing refineries to go back to work. The Warri refinery, Port Harcourt refinery, and the Kaduna refinery. That it will be postponing the doomsday, because there's no way these things can happen. But because those who are managing the oil sector have abandoned their duties, they're now making money out of the oil subsidy, and they didn't think about how Nigeria will start producing these products anytime soon.
Senator, are you one of those who think that there are some cabals that are manipulating and frustrating the system such that it's impacting directly and frustrating and putting more hardship on the average Nigerian? Are you one of those who think that we should be asking a tough question of those who are heading the petroleum sector in this country? And what do we need to do about them?
Well, it is clearly obvious that some people are feeling fat on the situation. I also said this in 2018, 2019, that corruption has prevented Nigeria from breaking away from this problem, because all the people who are in the sector are feeling fat on the dollars they make through this importation of PMS, into the Nigerian country. There is nothing they are doing to think about how to get our refineries work, because they were making cheap money, easy money, but Nigeria was bleeding to death. So that's why at this time we are now, people who have run our petroleum sector, the oil industry, in the past 6 years or 5 years, from 2019, I think that's when Mile Kyari came in, 2019. They're still there. 5 years after, nothing has changed. Nothing has been shown to be working for the Nigerian people.
Well, Senator,
on their duties.
Senator, there are those who will blame you and some of your colleagues. You are representing the Nigerian people. If some of these ills and some of these rot are going on, how would you just allow it to happen? You play oversight, and some of the committees play oversight on these sectors. How do we allow these to go on unchecked?
No, we've not allowed these things to go on unchecked. One is that I am a member of the Nigerian, I'm a member of the Upstream Mineral Resources Committee in the Senate. And I know that we have been interfacing with the agency, the NUPRC. In fact, the current executive chairman, we screened him, and I asked him pointed questions on the screening day. I said, how are you going to resolve all these issues in our exploration sector, production? He gave us assurances that from the low production we're having of the crude, that they have the capacity and the knowledge and the expertise to shore up our production level to about 2.5 million barrels a day. At that time, we were at around 1.2, 1.25 million barrels a day. And here we are. There's no story. Nothing has changed. We've not improved on our production. And those who are managing the NNPC, as it were, are busy importing PMS, neglecting production. If you talk about oversight, there are two sides to it. Oversight and the executive function. Somebody places people on their duties. And we are still wondering why there has been no surgical operation in the oil sector. Those who are managing our oil sector.
Senator,
people
so
are bleeding,
there
are
is
suffering,
this issue.
And we cannot order their removal, for example.
But you can also, because you're an arm of government that plays oversight on the executive. So the question here is that as soon as subsidy was removed on May last year, it affected every aspect of production. It affected every aspect of the economy. Commodity prices went up. So there are those who are afraid now that if the prices go up again, up to 1,000 naira, it's been announced that it's going to go up. So if it goes up, prices of commodity will be affected, the economy will be impacted, perhaps negatively. So the question is that there are those who say, look, in a normal climb, you and your colleagues would have rushed back to plenary and attend to this kind of situation where Nigerians' lives are directly impacted. At least you are the leaders representing the Nigerian people.
We are doing a lot of things. We have set up a committee, an ad hoc committee, to investigate why the refineries are not working. The ad hoc committee went to Port Harcourt refinery, went to Warri refinery, went to Kaduna refinery, and came back with a report that very soon these refineries will come back to stream and start working. As we are doing this, we are asking the questions and putting pressures that these things should be addressed. It takes executive action to be able to call somebody who is there to order. The National Assembly does not sack people who are appointed by Mr. President.
So you can put pressure on them.
You don't have power to sack anybody.
For example, there's a feeling that you should not be on recess. You and your colleagues should not be on recess. You should have vacated your holiday and attend to this matter of urgent economic importance in the country. That's the feeling in the land. I'm not sure that some of your constituents are telling you, but the feeling is that some of those who lead us in this country are not so sensitive to the plight of the average person. How can the National Assembly be on a recess while the Nigerian people are suffering and prices of commodity like petrol has gone up and you are on recess? Shouldn't there be a situation that you go back on emergency and attend to this kind of situation? You can put pressure on to the executive to make sure that things are being done to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. Senator.
Yes, well, it's good to pass this blame on the National Assembly. We did reconvene on an emergency on the 31st of July to address some of these issues, 31st July. And we're resuming from our vacation on the 17th of September, which is about next week. So there's nothing we cannot do when we come back that will make us to come back today, because these prices have been going up over time. And we have been waiting on the executive to do their own bit as well. The National Assembly will naturally, with oversight powers, raise issues of concern to those who are operating these sectors. But the executive has to do something. I was listening to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Henneken Lukobiri, and he was saying that the Petroleum Industry Act forbids control of prices of petroleum products, that they are deregulated. You know, the sector is deregulated. It's a question of how much you buy, you sell. But the question is there anywhere in the Petroleum Industry Act where the executives is precluded from revamping the refineries? There's no such thing. So it is the government that will bring our refineries back to stream and refine these products to bring the prices down. It's an issue of policy. And those who are in a position to take these decisions are making games out of it, howbeit unpatriotically. Our Nigerian people are suffering.
Senator.
So I know that when we resume, I'm coming, when we resume, we will be in a position to put our voice again on the current issue. There are people who are not on vacation. The executive is not on vacation. They're not on vacation. So when these things are happening, they have the powers, unlimited powers, to deal with these current issues. Like I said, it's obvious that it's only a blind man that will not see that our petroleum industry, the managers and the operators, will need a surgical overhaul of the sector. We need to change what is happening there, because if those who are there for 5 years running are not able to solve this problem for Nigerians, I don't know what they're still doing there.
All right.
You have to do something to ensure that these problems are addressed through appropriate means.
Let's take a pause, Senator.
To remove anybody.
Let's conclude this conversation about what is going on in the Labour Party. There are those who are asking questions about the Nenadi Usman committee. and how legitimate that is. No structure of the party. According to your party constitution, the caucus or the leaders of the party who met with the governor in Abia State is not known to law. What is the legitimacy of the Nenadi Usman Committee, Senator?
Have you finished? Have you dropped that question?
Yes, I have.
You're asking whether the organ that met to set up a capital committee had the powers to do so. Is that what you said?
Absolutely.
Oh, you see, people who are asking this question do not understand that when you don't have a legitimate executive committee in charge of your party, the issue of whether the constitution is followed or not will become unnecessary because we don't have a legitimate executive committee now. So those who are claiming that they have the powers to do so have not told Nigerians that their tenure in office has since expired out as a result of the explosion of time. And because they didn't do what they were supposed to do to bring a succeeding leadership in the party is right now without leadership. It's rudderless. Because before you begin to assert what the constitution says, you must be in place legitimately. You must be in charge of the party legitimately before you begin to complain about infraction on the constitution. So those who are posing this question do not really understand they are no longer in place. And if you are not in place, nature abhors a vacuum. But
again, the question is that the legitimacy, the legal standing of the caucus, the meeting in Abia, what legal backing does it have? There's no such structure within the constitution of your party.
No. When you don't have a leadership constitutionally in place, the party people can come together to make decisions to create leadership for the party. And that's what the meeting at Omaya did on Wednesday. There is no group, no organ of the party is in place now. Because the people who were supposed to do the right thing, refused to do the right thing. I was national chairman of ABDA for 10 years, so I understand the workings of party. There is no way you can have a convention, elective convention, that will create a leadership for the party without having congresses from what level to local government to state before you arrive at the convention. So what the people who are claiming that they are leaders of the party did was that they put the cart before the horse and time ran out on them. They didn't do what they were supposed to do by the constitution of the party. You cannot do a convention to elect national officers of the party and then go back to begin to conduct World Congress, local government congress, and state congress. This is a pyramid sort of business. You start from the what? Local government, state, and then convention.
All right.
And incidentally, there was a consent judgment that mandated and ordered these people to conduct world congresses, local government congresses, state congresses, and then the convention within 1 year.
All right.
They didn't do any of these things and arrived at convention. You can't do that.
All right.
That's a magical flight to the top. So we don't have that leadership in place, and because their time has elapsed, the vacuum created out because of the function of time against these people.
All right.
The party people can come together to begin to forge a way for the party, and that's what we have done.
Yeah.
To put a caretaker committee that will now conduct world congresses, local government congresses, state congress, and then convention.
All right.
And remember, as a member of this party, as a member of this party, when they tried to do this, I pointed it out to them. I said, "You're not doing the right thing."
Senator, we are totally out of time.
They're going to yes.
Yeah. Senator, we are totally out of time. But I must thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Senator Victor Ume, representing Anambra Central and the National Assembly. Thank you so much indeed for your thought tonight. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good night, everyone.